Project management process for large-scale hemp projects. Since the dawn of Green Rush, billions have been pumped into the cannabis industry to build up the infrastructure to operate a supply chain operation that in many cases, the project has been unsuccessfully delivered for lack of EPCM good practices of planning and project controls. With the expansion of the industry into biomass engineered products, this specialized project management service became very useful and supportive in the O&G industry expansion in the last 35 years to monitor project deliveries and operations in multiple countries and continents. Founder and CEO, Hemp Engineering, from Australia, Ramon Granados.
Yes. Can you confirm anyone if I am, are we ready? Can you see my page? Hello? Yes? Okay. So I'm going to start the presentation. Yes? Okay. Sawadee-krap, Thailand. Hello, the rest of the world. I am presenting these humble ideas, techniques that I have been working in the last 30 years of my past life before I came to the cannabis business. Hemp Engineering has the commission or the, sorry, I'm getting a little bit nervous. Hemp Engineering mission is to assist our clients to deliver cost-effective, sustainable, biodegradable, and carbon-negative engineering solutions for successful hemp projects. Our main objective is to deliver a smart hemp-home eco-village and cities fully built out of this plant. Our guarantee is that with hemp, we can heal faster and more harmonious when all countries learn somehow to work together to develop technologies to get the best out of this plant. Actually, we already have over 46 countries around the globe where hemp is legalized, and all those countries are chasing the same thing, use the whole plant for the benefit of their countries. That is China, which is the largest producer of hemp on earth, followed by Canada and Europe, and the US is the largest buyer of those goods. Now, nonetheless, all this is changing rapidly since the legalization of this plant in the United States. The hemp business is a very it's a unique business because, generally speaking, you should have in your mind exactly what you want out of this plant in order to create a cycle for the symbiosis between the seed and the soil. Once that is achieved, then there is a cycle that basically never ends. Hemp engineering scope is to plant, implement, all these different elements to make this project happen, or those ideas happen. Hemp Engineering has a 10-year roadmap that it started a couple of years ago. Some of the aspect has not been fully achieved, but I will assure you that we're following each one of them. In order for us to come into this business, we have to do a SWOT analysis, understand the strength, the weakness, the opportunities and threats of this plant. It's not an easy business, especially when it's so much regulated for primarily for the prohibition rather than proper knowledge, but it is what it is. There are a lot of people working and fighting very hard for this to stop. According to the United Nations, the project is a number of precedent of activities that shape an idea and is converted into a project. Project has many definitions. Like I said, United Nations has its own, the World Bank has its own, the military has their own, and every company has their own understanding what a project and how it should be, what a project is, and how it should be managed. Nonetheless, there are several standards that are used around the world. One of the NCC Project Management Institute, which is the one that we follow, and yet the perspective varies according to your level, your role, the company, and the purpose of the companies. Any project that you want to deliver is basically structured by three main elements, which is the scope of work, which define the contracts, the budget. Without budget, there is no project, and the schedule. The schedule defines and basically interface all the activities that have to be delivered. When you change any of those, the project changes. So it is like putting a puzzle all the time, and which is changing constantly. In order for us to understand how to control those changes, we have a certain number of techniques that help us to interface all this framework. Every project is unique. There is no one, even though they might seem the same, they are all unique because, like I said, it is about people, equipment, material, it's about budget, it's about how you structure the company or the project itself, which generally doesn't have nothing to do with the way the company is structured. A project has a unique life of its own and a way to manage it. Like I said, we follow the Project Management Institute, and those are what you see here is basically the scope of work that define the way that we should work. For every project, we have to initiate it, plan it, execute it, control it, and close it. And that is a never-ending cycle. In order to interface all those elements, depending on the phase of the project, which is the engineering, procurement, and construction, there is a number of elements that we use to put it together and interface so that when a given time and a milestone is achieved, we know exactly what to trigger so that we can proceed doing other things. In the project management for hemp, I have taken this graph just to give you a basic concept of the different phases that we have to follow. In many cases, when we are just thinking into growing, we call this phase as a conceptual phase because growing hemp or cannabis is only one aspect of the overall project. We use techniques of schedule to put everything together and time it accordingly. This is a very simple level of schedules. There are many ways to get this more complex. This is a typical organization that should be implemented for either hemp or marijuana or cannabis. It doesn't matter how big or small your project or idea, we all have to follow the same characteristics that I'm showing here for everyone. Of course, there are a little bit more complex interfaces as we move on, where we use specialized softwares to integrate all these different groups and to understand how we can interface in a synchronized way. In order to do that, we create a pyramid perspective so that it depends on who is the target to report the status of the project. We use this pyramid, and then we use all these softwares that I'm showing you here. This is a normal way to put a project together. All those softwares are used. It's not, I would say it's very complicated, but with the proper assistance of a good engineer, a good investment will assure that the money will be looked at. In our case, we use one specific software that is called Primavera, which is the one that we use in the oil and gas industry. For that, help us to understand exactly what is the status in every aspect. So what I'm trying to say is that imagine that you have 5 different farms around the world. This can help us to understand what is the status of each. And once that has been harvested and the processing starts, we can know exactly where we are. And once we start building, if we are going into building, then we can identify the progress status of each investment. As managing project is throughout history is it is a given since the time of pyramids, since the time so when we built the Roman amphitheater, or when we sent rockets to the moon. Each one of those elements is a project of its own and has a very strong knowledgeable team that can help to deliver those. Even the Rio de Janeiro Carnival, I know that there are very smart people just to organize and deliver a 3 days party that goes millions of people. From security, international travels, and the carnival itself is a project. Each one of those is complicated, and put them all together is part of the project management team. Those pipeline work that I used to build and design as well. Those are solar panels, solar farms, which is very popular in this moment. And one of the, when I used to teach this in the university, I used to tell my students doing a barbecue is perhaps one of the most complicated projects, because generally speaking, you do that, you plan and deliver this in less than 24 hours. Yes. But the most beautiful aspect of this new business that I am involved is cannabis by its own is to bring light to darkness. That's my understanding, and that's why I am in this business. Hemp engineering has been involved in many projects. Many of them are facilities that we designed in the United States, in Colorado. This is also automatized harvesting robot that is still in conceptual idea, but this is something that we bring to implement. So I was doubting to include this in our presentation, but I think it's important because of the educational purposes. Cannabis has been part of the human history since the beginning of time. There are testimonies that are in the pyramids and in cave found all over the world. In the hemp crypt itself, this word was found in Iraq. It dates over 8,000 years ago. So so it's something that is unbelievable. The first book ever printed on earth was the Bible, and it was printed in the hemp paper. Without hemp, the Spaniards and British would have never arrived to America and do the conquering that they did. The sails were out of hemp, the ropes were out of hemp, the clothes were out of hemp, and part of the food that the sailors were eating was also hemp. The Constitution of the United States was made, it was written on hemp paper. Before the prohibition, that was the typical way that we harvest the plant. Nowadays, we have artificial intelligence factories that are being developed by a sister company in Canada, which is also in a prototype stage, but this will eventually change the way that we do business around the earth. The first car ever built on earth was made out of hemp and fuel from hemp. And that was done by Mr. Henry Ford, so that we don't have doubt of the genius behind this idea. Unfortunately, as we all know, this didn't proceed well because of the prohibition. The United States government chose to support or to favor companies such as plastic, or the oil and gas, or pharma and the cotton. So all those ideas were basically stored for a long, long, long time until now. Those are prototypes of hemp products. Everything that you see here is made out of hemp. So hemp basically has four components, which is the root, the stalk, the leaf, and the flowers, and the seeds, of course. In our particular case, we use the biomass, which is basically the stalk. The stalk is processed and divided into subproducts. One is the hurd, H-U-R-D. I'm not very good at pronouncing this in English, and the fiber. The fiber is the outer skin, and the hurd is the internal. Those are, we process this with a machine that is called the corticator, and we get all these subproducts. I am Ramon Granados, as the introduction said. I have been working in the oil and gas industry for over 25 years. I am a newcomer in this business. I have only basically 4 years, 3-4 years, but I have been very blessed somehow to get to know the big players, and somehow I have been helping to influence the outcome of many projects. I am deeply involved with 4 or 5 other companies around the world, and I have been organizing also many events. And I am also very happy that I do have a very solid team, very genius, all of them. I'm not sure if I am at that level, but without them, we would not be able to reach this level of capacity and skills. We work as a team. As you can see here, the red dots are projects that we are currently executing in the world, and the blue dots are partnerships, alliances that are also in all continents. Like I said, our services goes from the formulation of the project itself, where we help to define the scope of work, the budget, and the schedule, the execution schedule of your ideas. Once we determine in that initial document, we know exactly how we're going to execute the project. In many aspects of this can apply, many aspects of those cannot apply. It all depends on the project. Every project is unique. In our particular case, the first phase of the processing, and the second one and the third one in this slide is consolidated in only one. This is basically past technology or technology. The hemp industry is going into artificial intelligence answers. I do understand that it's a high level of investment, but it's the only way that we can assure to accelerate the process to reach the masses. We cannot go, from my understanding, to go compete with the big players harvesting processing the plant in the old-fashioned way. No way. This is all from my perspective. So our main purpose is to deliver biodegradable and carbon negative products, that is including houses, including cars. And Aubrey is a sister company which belongs to Mr. Carl Martel, a Canadian cannabis scientist. He has helped to put together this vision. In our particular case, like I said, we are only focused in this moment in the stock, and the stock is all those products are here in the upper left of the screen. We can basically process them and get them. In a much closer state, in a much closer zoom, in the blue box, this is where the hemp construction is focused. Having said that, hemp is, like I said, is a mix of earth, lime, and water. Very simple. There is no significant technology that we can say that is extraordinary. This mixing hemp and lime and water has been going on for 8,000 years. It hasn't changed. The combination of them give us a lot of options to either grow it outdoor, indoor, import it, or do it locally. In Australia, most of the homes that we build, the earth is coming from the Netherlands, the lime is coming from Belgium, and I understand that it happens also in the United States and many other countries on earth. So the idea could be that every country can be self-sustainable locally, but in order to do that, there are significant investments to be done before we can even dream that we can compete with the big players. What here is one of the main characteristics of this element is fire resistant. I can provide to you some testing and experiments that we have done in our company, which is fire resistant is one of the main elements for the for the Australian environment. We suffered a couple of years ago devastating fire, and this is the answer to compete to get this up and running. When we compare lime and cement or concrete, which is the right terminology, the density is cannot simply compete. Hempcrete is overwhelming. It's actually 9 times less dense than concrete, and which means that it weighs much less, but the strength is 5 times more significant than concrete itself. From the biology perspective, when we compare hempcrete with clay brick, which is the way that we build homes here in Perth, there is no comparison at all. Our main idea is that we could use, or we can use hemp to manufacture structural members made out of hemp plastic, and that is a game changer in the business. Primarily, I'm saying this because in a very short time, we can build homes completely from hemp without need of timber and or steel. The only thing that we would require is windows, because that technology does not exist yet. But if we did, then we don't need nothing, just lime, hemp, and water. And in order to deliver those, we could use, like I said, artificial intelligence and or a 3D printer. This technology exists, it's still in prototype, but it exists. There are engineers in Canada and the United States. They are working in this technology as we speak. So our main idea is to deliver high-tech homes where we can capture the energy from the sun or the window and store it in our hemp batteries, something that I'm going to talk to you in a while. There are many ideas that we can use in large scale. In order to do that, we're going to have to reinvent the way that we build, we work with hemp, because compared with concrete, well, imagine. So those are prototypes that are for sale worldwide. Those are dome homes that we will be building in Puerto Rico very soon. We're very close to achieve this target and milestone. And those are more prototypes that can be used for solutions for low-income people, handicaps, and or problem with the homelessness. Our target is to build eco-villages similar to the one that we are targeting with another sister company in Malaysia, where we are very blessed designing a project for an eco-village in this country for our good client and friend, Mr. Johan Mohammed. And well, this brings us to the project that we are currently executing. This is a reactor that we designed and built. It was done in Uruguay a couple of months ago. This reactor is used to get the stalks of the hemp and create biochar. The biochar is like a charcoal, but it's not. It's a little bit more complex than that, which is basically the raw material to do graphene. The graphite, is the raw material that we use for our batteries. So the main component is like lithium. Of course, this has other applications for cosmetics, well-being, and you name it. But in our particular case, we use it for high technology. Having said that, the Biomass Engineering, the company that I mentioned to you earlier, which is part of Hemp Engineering, Mr. Carl Martel have designed and built a prototype a couple of years ago. Now we're working together in order to deliver a commercial prototype and compete with Telstra. We know that we can do this because we already have results of our prototypes. It's just a matter of converting this into a commercial prototype. Having said that, what we are looking for is to raise capital, particularly for this project, because, like I said, this will give us the strength and the power to deliver a complete solutions for projects that we have in our mind, such as the eco-village, okay, and the smart cities that we're after. When I first met Mr. Jackie on, he came out with the idea. I was hooked, and since then we have been working and discussing the best way that we can collaborate. I cannot deny that I would be more than happy and more than pleased to help Thailand and any other country to make this happen. This is a visual 3D of the idea. This was done by one of our architects in our company. He's from Malaysia. The idea is to build this city initially in Thailand, but we are also targeting in Malaysia and in Australia and in the United States as we speak. One of the most interesting part of this is that in order to do this, there are two elements that we would require is the funds to get the engineering team and the land so we can start working. So those are another project. Like I said, this is being developed by another, it's a project that is being developed by our structural engineer in the United States. this is another product that is being done by Mr. David Chills here in Perth. He designed and built this block, and he's building this house right now. So yes, and second and not last is our artificial intelligence process plant that we are targeting to build it in Thailand with our current client. And our last project, which is one of the most interesting projects, is to use hemp for plastic. Having said that, we are in a prototype. Mr. Edmond is a naval architect that has been focused on designing plastic hemp. As you can see here, there are many ideas. We want to do many things with this, including credit cards and you name it. And the last project that we are chasing is a plastic car that will be engined by electric engine. Thank you for your time. Unfortunately, I have to compress, all this in a very short time. But if anyone that is more that is interested in contacting us, this is the contact details, and or we can talk through Mr. Jackie. Thank you very much, and all questions can be addressed to me or through Jackie. Thank you very much for your time.